Daily Gay Evening News Show, and it's 7 p.m., Tuesday, March 10, 2020. We begin tonight with breaking Q news about coronavirus, and we report that coronavirus infects the LGBTQ plus community. America, we announced that we were going to report on many things about coronavirus, and before and after our opening package, we will be doing that. But we begin with RuPaul's Drag Race. The DragCon in Los Angeles has been canceled. It was announced today by World of Wonder that RuPaul's Drag Race DragCon in Los Angeles, the largest drag event in the world, has been canceled because of fears of coronavirus. World of Wonder announced today that because of the effects of having thousands, tens of thousands of people gather at the Los Angeles Convention Center this May, that they had no idea what the effects of coronavirus would be in the next 2 to 3 months, and so therefore they were canceling RuPaul's Drag Race DragCon as a result, as a preventative measure, and invited people back in 2021. We are going to report tonight some of the big notes about what's going on in coronavirus, and then tell you about a special that we're going to do in Q News tonight, tomorrow evening. But let's start with RuPaul's DragCon. What do y'all think about this cancellation?
Really rough week for RuPaul. I mean, first AJ and the Queen is canceled on Netflix. Now this, more so than anything, I've never been to a drag con, but from what I've seen online, it's a really great opportunity for not just the queens themselves, but especially for young people, that this is their first exposure to LGBT people and the art of drag, as well as just the queens in general, to be able to meet them and to talk about this culture that we have within the community. It's sad that coronavirus has essentially canceled this, if you will, but I'm glad to know that, of course, this is going to be something they'll still continue to do in the future.
You know, I agree with that completely, and there are people that will be impacted by this that will not get another opportunity. But I'm glad that RuPaul is taking this as a chance to cancel DragCon, because if this were something that were somehow correspondent or in some way relegated to being in relation to coronavirus, then this would be a much bigger deal for the LGBT community. I think that RuPaul has a really strong standard, and I think that he's protecting not just his brand, but the entirety of our community by making sure that this doesn't happen, because he doesn't want this to be something where people get infected and it becomes a part of a more global story, because it's not about the LGBT community. Coronavirus is completely separate, and it's important that we acknowledge it as separate.
Absolutely true. DragCon's announcement today about the cancellation for the May DragCon in Los Angeles, of course, is big news, but the bigger news is what's going on in terms of the LGBTQ plus community being infected by coronavirus. We are going to report on the other side of our opening, and also extensively tomorrow night, all of the specific ramifications on the gay community about coronavirus, and it'll include HIV and many other issues related to coronavirus. So good evening again, America. It's 7 p.m. Tuesday, March 10, 2020. It's time to queer up the news. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your stories next on Q News Tonight.
Tonight on the world's first live daily queer evening news show.
Tonight's news about the gay community and the news from an LGBTQ perspective. Are our gay stories important to you? In headlines, politics, entertainment, gay culture, travel, religion, and more. Reported by respected anchors.
Out of the closet and into the headlines on Q News Tonight.
Well, America, welcome to Q News Tonight. We are live and unscripted, so anything can happen. Tonight, we bring you the news of and a perspective from the LGBT community. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and these are my co-anchors, Aaron Darr and Napoleon Plays. So let's continue to queue up the news. We continue with our breaking Q news that we start with the top of the show about coronavirus. It infects the LGBTQ plus community. We continue with it. About 29 minutes ago, a presidential Briefing at the White House, done actually by Vice President Pence, commenced of today's briefing, and it resulted in very big news. Off of my phone, gentlemen, because it's so quick and breaking, let me tell you about a few of the major points that have been reported this evening. First, containment in the United States has failed. We have moved from a containment stage to mitigation has begun, meaning we are now going to try to manage the community infection on a community-by-community basis. The White House reported at the briefing just moments ago that 1 million corona test kits are now available, and that by Friday, 4 million more are going to come online. Two of the largest test companies in America have now made major commitments to continue very significant production of corona testing. The White House has announced that all of the testing for coronavirus is going to be completely free, without charge and without copay. The White House has reported that all insurance providers in the United States agreed this afternoon to cover all corona testing with no hidden fees, including waiving all copays. And they also indicated this will include telemedical services will be completely provided and covered. Finally, they announced that all of the insurance companies would be paying for all medical services related to coronavirus with no exceptions in the United States. Big news on that front. And that a tax credit is going to be used to cover infected individuals that would have effect in terms of being quarantined or self-isolation for 14 days. Big news here is that the White House announces that they are going to, through executive order, suspend payroll taxes for individuals in hourly environment and also for businesses. It was asking questioning that the president has said, according to Vice President Pence, that he would like to waive this until the end of the year, which means if he is able to do this through executive order, all payroll employee taxes would be suspended in 2020. This would amount to approximately $1.6 trillion would be suspended in taxation for the U.S. government, which presumably would have some effect on the budget of the United States to help fund the efforts of what's going to happen in coronavirus. That's the breaking news of what's going on in coronavirus. Any thoughts about today's briefing?
I mean, does this surprise us that Donald Trump is once again bypassing Congress and trying to take an executive order, even if he can, to create, if you will, a stimulus package for the American public in regards to giving us some kind of relief for coronavirus? You know, it's sad because at the end of the day, this would be a really good opportunity for Democrats and Republicans to put aside their differences, collectively work together in the common interest in the public health safety of the American people. I can't speak to that $1.6 trillion number. I don't even know where our president's getting that from. In this national conversation right now, there's not a contingency plan that still exists, and we're still not even having a conversation for middle-class Americans all across the country right now in regards to paid sick leave, making that an actual reality for far too many people in this country, that if they feel sick, that they can stay at home, but they're going to be able to make sure that they actually have pay so they can still pay their bills, because far too many people in this country live paycheck to paycheck.
I think you really are hitting on it right there. There are so many people that are scared to stay home. There are so many people that are scared to say, hey, I might not feel my best, but I cannot survive if I don't go into work, if I don't go do more, if I don't push myself for the betterment of society. I think there's a lot of people that are fearful of how to interact, and they don't have the government to lead them in what to do next. And I think that's the problem here. I don't think that it's the whatever the percentage rate is for deaths here. I think it's the how is everyone going to interact with each other financially to make sure that we not just don't infect each other, but make sure that we survive and thrive as a community. I think that's the really scary question next.
Well, the bottom line to this news of this press conference moments ago is coronavirus has been weaponized as a political event. Because to the exact fear that you just mentioned, it will become a political issue to say we are going to incentivize you to stay home, and that's desirable. And the reason that is being done in suspension of potentially $1.6 trillion is to make it a political issue. Now, it will take some time for that to digest over the LGBT community and really America as a whole. It'll become political on the Democratic side and the Republican side, and so a major fight is coming. But I have to say, in terms of first move of Corona, it is really a brilliant political move, which is what we're going to argue and debate and hear. We want to remind you that tomorrow night on coronavirus, we are going to dedicate most of Q News tonight to the specific issues of coronavirus as it relates to the gay community. Many of the detailed information that we're going to provide you is, for example, how coronavirus interacts with HIV and what kind of risk you have there. We are going to make recommendations of the best medical advice on the use of masks in terms of what is going to happen to gay small businesses in America, whether you should participate in gay travel, how to disinfect surfaces that you encounter. We are going to do some myth busting, things that you have heard about in the gay community about coronavirus, and we are going to provide the best advice available in the industries related to those myths of telling you whether it is true or not. We're going to give you an emergency preparedness checklist where it's about time for us to do that. We're going to discuss the misinformation campaign that is coming from the President of the United States and do some correction. Very specifically, we're going to talk about how this affects the LGBTQ plus community as it relates to gay events, our bars, our restaurants, dining out in our restaurants, and issues like, can you go to the supermarket and can you buy fresh vegetables? Or could you be at a buffet in a restaurant? And of course, the ultimate issue for all gay men, certainly, can you continue to go to the gym? We're going to cover all of these subjects and provide the absolute best information available in each of the industry segments tomorrow night on Q News Tonight. And ultimately, the most important question that we're going to try to help answer tomorrow is how long is this going to last? It is a special by Q News Tonight tomorrow evening, and it is called Coronavirus Infects the LGBTQ plus community. We continue in queuing up the world tonight by going to Canada to report Canada is on the verge of a nationwide ban of conversion therapy. Before we discuss this story, we've prepared this package. Watch this.
The Liberal government's proposed bill would change Canada's criminal code. Providing conversion therapy to anyone under age 18 would be a crime, and it would also be illegal to advertise or benefit from the practice financially. But survivors like advocate Erica Muse says the bill doesn't go far enough and leaves people vulnerable.
I can't say that this is what I need and what Canadians need to make sure no one else is hurt like me.
That video that our viewers just saw, the activist Erica Muse, it just how normal that has to be normalized to be told that because you are different or queer, that conversion therapy could be something that could possibly fix you. So we all know that is not true, but Canada is going and taking that step further and introducing Bill S-206, also known as an act to amend the criminal code. So it would make it illegal, so a criminal act for anyone under the age of 18 to be forced to be submitted into the practice of gay conversion therapy. We see right now in the United States, there are 20 states just in America alone that have banned gay conversion therapy. 70 cities in the United States, Fort Lauderdale and Wilton Manors, very proud, two of those cities. I'm glad that Canada is taking a step forward for the LGBT people in their community and making sure that they're an ally and on the right side of the history in this issue.
You know, it was only a week ago that we were reporting on the mayor of the gayest place on the planet, Wilton Manors, who died, and how he went through conversion therapy. It's interesting to think that his parents were putting him through it at an earlier time to help him. to make it better for him in his life. And it's just an interesting capacity to think of the people that put others in conversion therapy are trying to help them, because it doesn't help anyone that's involved in it in any way. But the ones that are involved in it are putting their children in it, their family members in it, their friends in it, are trying to help. And that's why these bans are important. Make sure that they don't happen. And we want to make sure that every time that these kinds of things happen, that every time that people are subjected to these kinds of endeavors, that we hear your voice. And we want to make sure that you hear our voice here at Q News Tonight. And we want to ask you, are LGBT voices important to you? Can the news of the world have a gay community perspective? If you, like us, think the answer is a resounding yes, then like and subscribe to Q News Tonight on YouTube and on Facebook. Do our gay cultural stories impact you, your friends, and your family? Then start a watch party. Get your circle involved in our conversation, as it supports the entire gay community.
Well, we continue in an unusual story tonight as we queue up gay culture. And this one is quite unusual, as we report that thousands of men flock to a new dating site that is targeting men with small penises. I told you, quite unusual. Napoleon, tell us about what's happening here.
Well, I do have an entire page of statistics here as to why Al is a part of this site. But then it reminds me why the LGBT community is so infatuated with a large penis, with anything that is related to it. But this app actually isn't just LGBT. Approximately 27% are female, 2% are transgendered, and then the rest are gay. Apparently, there are a large proportion of people that are with small penises and that are looking to interact with others in terms of sexual activity, in terms of just connecting. And that's what this app is for something that is about sexual interconnection, which is why I have this story, but is also about how to find who the other person is. And that's why we're covering it here. The point of this app is to make sure that other people can find you regardless of what they're interested in, and knowing that you are a human behind everything else, that you are capable of things that can envelop pleasure and fun. And I think that's part of what we try to prescribe here at Q News Tonight and in general with Happening Out Television Network. We want to make sure that you're having a fun time. We want to make sure that you are finding out more information. And yes, maybe it's a little bit crass, but sometimes it might hurt. But we want to make sure that you have fun too in what's going on. And I also think that part of as Al looks to me in a little bit of perplexity, why do you think that this is an important app to make sure that everyone, and not just our community, LGBT, but also elsewise has?
If people find interest in whatever related dating app that they're participating in, and they like the dating app, then I think that's desirable. I don't know a whole lot about it because this only came to my attention today. But if people are happy in the apps that they participate in, it's just like Grindr or any other app. It's something they enjoy.
They have a fetish. They have something that they're interested in, and so they participate. You're smiling a little bit at me here.
Well, definitely not something I'd ever go out looking for, I'll tell you that. But, this is what is so magical, I think, about Q News Tonight. I mean, it's really LGBTQ news, how it affects the community. But from our perspective, and these stories are so great, and that's why Q News Tonight is so instrumental in propelling these stories forward, because Q News Tonight is part of the Happening Out Television Network. We are the daily news. But you can also watch the best of entertainment live every Monday night at 8 p.m. on HAPPENING.Fun. We are also part of the most popular live gay TV show in the world every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. on It's Happening app. It's a talk show like television's The View, but with a whole lot of gay people.
That's my view at this table. I completely understand that.
Oh my God, I just wanted to quote share and say as if and whatever else at this moment.
We continue in queuing up Vote 2020 and reporting that the Human Rights Campaign's March voter snapshot is quite revealing. Aaron, tell us about what's happening here at the HRC.
So exit surveys are really, really important in regards to elections, especially Democrat and Republican primaries. They really give us a general snapshot of how people are voting. Just this year alone, especially in November of 2020, 11 million people who are identified as LGBT are expected to vote all across the country. And we've already seen in states like Iowa and New Hampshire, South Carolina, and other states throughout this Democratic primary that they've been significantly voting, and they've been propelling their voices forward and ultimately choosing a Democratic nominee that is going to be nothing more than an ally and an advocate and a friend to all LGBT Americans. So the Human Rights Campaign has put this snapshot forward based off of data that we've seen so far and what voters can expect going into the rest of the primaries this month, and their role that they'll play essentially in the 2020 election, as well as the most crucial part of this, which is the allies. We would be nothing without our allies voting in favor of LGBT issues.
I think it's fascinating as I look at this, these HRC numbers. Of course, the most important thing is the comparison of actual adults that identify in that state versus those that turned out at the polls. And when you look at Maine, for example, that is a dramatic number. Under 5%, but they made up 13% of the voting turnout on Super Tuesday. That is amazing, and it's an early indication that the LGBT community, LGBTQ plus community, is very robustly interested in this election.
And perhaps Susan Collins' Senate seat.
I
Here's
was going to say,
hoping.
Susan Collins probably is not so happy with that number right now. I can't wait to see what happens in Arizona and a number of others.
Montana, North Carolina.
Exactly right.
I'm so excited. Christmas is coming to town.
That's exactly right. We continue in our Queuing Up 2020. To report tonight is primary night, another big primary, kind of a mini Super Tuesday, March 10th. Idaho, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, Washington, all happening this evening. First, we've prepared this package. Watch this.
After 14 states voted on Super Tuesday, 6 more are up to bat on March 10th. Idaho, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, Washington State, and the top prize, Michigan. Since the South Carolina primary, the Democratic primary herd has been culled. Before the Super Tuesday vote, Tom Steyer, Pete Buttigieg, and Amy Klobuchar dropped out, with the latter two endorsing Biden. Then, after the results came out Tuesday, Michael Bloomberg also withdrew and endorsed Biden, and Elizabeth Warren threw in the towel.
So it is primary day. For me, this is like
Christmas Eve.
Christmas, or for, just so you get my language, Hanukkah, okay?
I'm lighting the candles already, Aaron.
Perfect.
I'm ready to
This
go.
is the seventh night.
So many
of
candles,
Hanukkah.
so many gifts. So I'm so excited about this. I love primary season. I think it's great. And I love primaries. They're part of the process, and I think they really energize our party. I think they're good for the party. So there's a lot at stake tonight. So we have Idaho, we have Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, Washington, and we also have Democrats abroad. Idaho's worth 20 delegates. Michigan is worth 125. That's the huge prize tonight. Senator Sanders has so much to lose because he really pulled out a win there. Nobody was expecting it in 2016, and some polls have shown us that Joe Biden is actually leading Senator Sanders by 24 points in Michigan.
That's
Mississippi,
amazing.
36 delegates. Missouri, 68. North Dakota, 14. Washington, 89. And Democrats abroad, which are a lot of service members who are registered Democrats. That's worth 7 pledged delegates. All of these, 538, which they're pretty spot on. They have data out today showing that from their internal polling that Joe Biden is expected to win all 7 tonight.
I'm curious in terms of the reporting on Michigan especially. Of course, all of America is watching Michigan tonight.
Which part?
Right, exactly. My family's from here.
He immediately was like, is this Girl Scouts?
In 2016, now I'm going to mention Hillary. Please don't bust out crying. When Hillary was at this moment in 2016, she was ahead of Bernie Sanders in similar polling numbers. Does that pause you at all that the polling numbers are so similar on Hillary, Bernie versus Joe, Bernie, and that might concern you?
No, this is a completely different environment than we were at essentially.
You mean he's a man?
4 years ago? No, I mean that's definitely part of it. But I think more than anything, and we were having this discussion, Al and I were earlier. what's driving turnout right now? What's driving Joe-mentum, really? And one of the reasons why I cast my ballot early for Vice President Biden is this mentality of who is the best Democrat, registered Democrat, that we can put forward that's going to make sure that Donald Trump is a one-term president. A lot of people overwhelmingly are stating, especially in these exit polls that we talk so heavily about, that is their number one issue, is who can defeat President Trump. And people overwhelmingly are saying that it's Vice President Biden. So we're seeing this huge turnout numbers that we haven't seen since 2008, and that's really driving this.
So that being the case, will tonight's primaries be the exit for Bernie Sanders, or could it be Florida, or is it going to be in it all the way to the...
Well, I was reading an article earlier today, and it said that 2016 was the resurrection of Bernie Sanders in Michigan. Tonight, it could be his burial. And, I do expect that Senator Sanders is going to reassess his campaign tonight. I mean, let's face it. Let's look at it. So the states that are up tonight, you have Mississippi, you have Missouri. Those two states alone, there's a heavy coalition it's the Obama coalition, if you will. It's those Joe Biden voters. It's people of color. It's suburban women. The Democratic establishment, as Bernie Sanders likes to call them. And this is going to be not a good night for Senator Sanders. I think he's going to have to reassess his campaign, go into March 17th. He's going to go in as the underdog. But those are very important states that all four of those states in 2016, Hillary Clinton won overwhelmingly. And in Florida alone, Joe Biden is at 61%. Actually, because of early voting ballots, you have Bloomberg still at number 2 and Sanders at number 3 with 12% of the vote. I think after 17th, Sanders is out.
So
done.
Again, my question is today the end of Bernie Sanders, or is it Florida, or is it going all the way to the convention?
I think South Carolina was the end of Senator Sanders.
Yeah. Well, as we continue on, we remind you that there are some other people in America that still have a say in it, and that's called the Republicans. And in the LGBT community, that is called #walkaway. And we report again that we're going to do a special this Thursday, March 12th, for the #walkaway movement. We want to make sure that we bring this to your attention. The Republicans and the Trumpsters are trying to peel away approximately 3% of the LGBT community, the black community, the women vote that they think are loyal to the Democrats. And #walkaways, one of their leading spokesmen is Joy Villa. And I've interviewed her about what's going on in #walkaway. Before I tell you a little more about that, let's watch this. Now it's 2020, we kind of found out we were kind of Russian bots. They did manipulate the election. They did influence the election.
Not to the extent where people think. They said that the walkaway movement isn't real people, that these are only Russian bots. That was an attack to try to dismantle the reality of walkaway.
Well, as I said, Q News tonight is going to explain and explore #walkaway. Many in the LGBT community follow in this movement of #walkaway the statement that President Trump is the most pro-gay president in history, and #walkaway promotes that. So Thursday night we're going to explore that, and with Joy Villa we explore many of the questions that you would have about what is going on, including me asking her in this group, you seem a little batshit crazy to me. And I ask her that question specifically, and she has a very interesting answer. Aaron has said he's going to have a watch party, and we're going to have a great time doing that. Any thoughts about what we're going to do on Thursday night?
See, you say #walkaway. I say #please come back to reality. I mean, I saw that she had a cup there. I'm thinking, what the hell is in there? Kool-Aid? Watching her is like...
Russian vodka.
Russian vodka, right? Totally. It's collusion brand. Watching her is like watching a commercial for pest control, roaches for raid, really, if you will. It's very concerning because this isn't about propelling LGBTQ people. It's not about moving forward people of color and women. This is about exactly what you said. It's peeling off that 3%. It's about winning. It's not about doing what is in the common best interest and good of people who are minorities in this country.
Well, that is something that you're saying, and I'm not sure I disagree. However, it is important to make sure that we keep an open mind and watch this Thursday. That way we can decide what is it that she's saying, what is it everyone else is saying. I hate when other people make decisions for me. I hate when other people tell me what I'm supposed to think. And so I'm curious to see what she's going to say, because you're right. She might be batshit crazy, but that makes it even more fun to watch and see what's going to happen this Thursday.
Well, you're going to hear every angle of what's going on in the LGBT Republican Trumpster community with Joy Villa and hashtag Walkaway this Thursday, March 12th at 8 p.m. And you're going to learn a lot about what the Republicans plan to do with the LGBT community this Thursday. So we hope you tune in. Tonight we are broadcasting from our studio set in the middle of the World AIDS Museum and Education Center here in Wilton Manors in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We joke we're coming from the gayest place on planet Earth. This is a living museum, and as we're doing this live broadcast, there's an event going on here in the World AIDS Museum as we speak. We'd also like to thank our set designer, Concepto Modern Living, here in Fort Lauderdale, for helping us with the construction of this permanent set in the World AIDS Museum. Finally tonight, we have the big finish. There are many stories today we only want to mention, just a brief mention. Let's see if Aaron and Napoleon and I can entertain each other as we have a lightning round on the LGBT news of the day and the news with an LGBT perspective. We'll try not to talk very long, and we'll try to be entertaining. Gentlemen, do we all understand what we're doing here?
Yes, ma'am.
And Q News tonight, the big finish. Let's begin with story number one, the big finish. Pete Buttigieg will guest host Jimmy Kimmel Live on Thursday night.
You know, I'm so glad that since he's not in this race anymore, that he's decided not to just go away and he's continuing to be out there in the public. He's such a magical person. I love him.
Magical is definitely a word to use. I'm curious to see what this Thursday will bring. I'm going to go announce my presidency in exactly 5 years so that I can make sure that I'm on Jimmy Kimmel in 5 years to have this kind of fun. I can't imagine how this relates at all, but I want to be one of those people.
I'm very excited that finally on late night there's something that is interesting and exciting for the gay community other than who's on Grindr 56 feet away from you. The big finish. Dolly Parton wants to celebrate her 75th birthday on the cover of Playboy.
I don't even know what to say to this other than, do you know how gay I am? I mean, I'm pretty gay, guys. When I was little, I was in first grade, and Ginger Spice, so Jerry Halliwell, she was on the cover of Playboy, and I brought it in, not opening it up and looking at her nude pictures. She was my favorite Spice Girl. I brought it in for show and tell in first grade. And so when I think of Playboy, I immediately think of that. But 75, good for her. Do it, girl. Get it.
That's what gay people say about Playboy. As far as Dolly Parton, I'm interested to see what she will do. Being of any age and saying that someone has to acknowledge who you are and what you mean as a person of society is very interesting. She deserves this. I can't wait to see what happens with Playboy. They owe it to her and to all of society.
Forgive me, I love Dolly, but if Dolly does this, there's going to be young men all over America that are going to find out and understand why they're really gay. The big finish. Tinder warns wannabe hookups to keep social distance for COVID-19 safety.
All they have to do is put Al's picture right there, and everyone will stay very far away.
As long as it's Tinder and it's not Uber Eats, we're fine.
Well, the gays, per usual, were 40 years ahead of the rest of American society. You can have sex with having no social distance. Big finish. COVID-19 is coronavirus impeachment scam, according to Fox News.
Can I just phone a Fox and friend and tell them that they're absolutely batshit crazy? Because they all are.
I love Vox and Friends. It's my favorite source of finding absurdities every morning because this is absolutely ridiculous and I cannot stop laughing even reading it right now.
I invite my plasticky friends and colleagues at Fox News, get in a room with President Trump and greet lots and lots of people. Make sure you shake hands and hug a lot. I would even tongue each other. And then tell me it's a scam. The big finish. Elon Musk says college is for fun and not for learning.
So irresponsible. I want Elon Musk to go say this to little girls in Pakistan who are being shot in the head simply because they're born girls and they're not deemed to be someone who should have a suitable education. Completely unacceptable. So offensive.
Alternatively, I say you can have fun and learn at the same time.
This is probably exactly why young people are not turning out to the polls. The Big Finish. Happy 48th birthday to John Hamm.
Did somebody say ham?
48, 12, 11, 10, somewhere between there. I don't care. It seems to be nice for the public.
You know,
Love birthday stories.
I'm pretty vegetarian, so I would have to say this is definitely the only ham that's going to end up in my mouth.
He's not vegetarian, I promise you. He eats a lot of meat there.
The Big Finish. Today is March 10. March 10. It's Mia Mario.
Is this like... I don't get this. Was this like a joke in AARP or something? Am I supposed to get this, understand this?
You're just supposed to be...
Is this a video game thing? Mario?
Video? Come on. Just get that one up and have fun with it because we all have an extra life. Trump is in office. Let's have a party because who knows what's going to happen next. Let's upgrade ourselves and be giant in society because I'm terrified too.
I understand that Mario first said this around 1996. It's Mia Mario. And when I think about March 10th, I think about Shakespeare's Ides of March because that and Mario basically mean the same thing. So that's today's news for the LGBT community on the world's first daily gay evening news show. Remember, if it's important to the LGBT community, it's important to Q News Tonight. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. And this is Q News Tonight. We remind you, America, tomorrow a special for the LGBTQ community, all about the importance of what you need to do next in coronavirus. Thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m.